In today's lesson, we'll be learning about perimeter of composite figures. Perimeter is the distance around a 2D shape. However, determining the perimeter of a triangle and the perimeter of a circle are a little bit more tricky. Determining the perimeter of a triangle usually involves the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, represents the relationship between the sides of a right triangle, where a represents a leg, b represents another leg, and c represents the hypotenuse. In our first example, we need to determine the perimeter of this parallelogram. Since this is a parallelogram, if we know that this side is 4 centimeters, that means this side also has to be 4 centimeters, which makes this distance over here 1 centimeters. However, the slanted sides are a little bit more complicated. What we're going to do is look at this right triangle on its own. As you can see, we are looking at this right triangle on its own. We already know that this distance over here is 1 centimeter. Our goal is to find the length of this slanted side. Now, because this is a right triangle, that would make the slanted side the hypotenuse, which means I can use the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to label that A since this is a leg. I'm going to label that B since that is the other leg, and I'm going to label this C since that is the hypotenuse. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to replace some of these variables with my known values. Instead of a, I'm going to write the number 1. Instead of b, I'm going to write the number 3. And since I do not know what c is, that's going to stay the same. Next, you want to simplify the left side of the equation using BEDMAS, which means we need to do exponents before addition. So 1 to the power of 2 is 1 times 1, which is 1. And 3 to the power of 2 is 3 times 3, which is 9. Again, I can simplify here. 1 plus 9 is 10. You might stop here and think that the hypotenuse is 10 centimeters long. However, that would be incorrect. If you take a look at the diagram, it is not possible that the hypotenuse is 10 centimeters. 10 is actually equal to c squared. However, I don't want to know what c squared is. I want to know what c is. Therefore, the opposite of squaring something is square rooting it. And what you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side of the equation. The square root of 10 is approximately 3.2. Therefore, the hypotenuse here is 3.2 centimeters long, which is much more reasonable than 10 centimeters. Looking back at our original diagram, we now know that the length of this slanted side is 3.2 centimeters, which means this slanted side is also 3.2 centimeters. Since we now know the length of each of the 4 sides, we can simply add them up to find the perimeter. I've gone ahead and done that already, therefore the perimeter of this parallelogram is 14.4 centimeters.